See, the most incredible doll ever invented. Her name is Poppy, and she is the first truly intelligent doll in the world.
I recently got my hands on Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 through 3 on the Switch on a physical cart. I've played through all 3 chapters on the PC and reviewed the content, so this is going to be more of a video of how well it runs on the Switch hardware and my thoughts playing the game on a controller. I'll probably also talk about the content a little bit here and there, but this is going to be less of an in-depth review of all 3 chapters. I'm not going to talk about the story, but there may be some very light spoilers when referencing the mechanics at certain parts of the game. Poppy Playtime on the Switch is a little different than if you've played it on the PC. Rather than have a single launcher with the DLC, the cart literally just throws 3 separate apps on your home screen. At the time I played, the cart has the latest version of the games already installed and didn't need any updates when I put it on my system, nor did it actually seem to install anything to the Switch. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the game probably isn't going to get any more updates, and that's kind of a problem. Poppy Playtime is a little confusing if you've played through the series back to back. It's not terrible, but it's inconsistent. Chapter 1 lets you use Euro controls, which is kinda handy, but would have been handier in Chapter 2. Apparently sometime between porting Chapter 1 and porting Chapter 2, the devs decided they hated the Greeks because Chapter 2 has no Euro controls, but Chapter 3 does. I'm willing to bet that different people ported Chapter 2 compared to Chapter 1 and 3, because Chapters 1 and 3 share a few things that Chapter 2 lacks. Chapter 1 on the Switch runs fine. It's very short, and there aren't a lot of mechanics involved. The whole thing will take less than an hour to beat, and well under an hour if you know what you're already doing, like I did. Performance was also fine. The game runs smooth, and I didn't notice any hiccups. Controls are decent, and I didn't have any trouble during the Huggy Wuggy chase scene at the end, despite being on a controller. One thing did become apparent during Chapter 1 that I noticed a lot more in Chapter 2, but more on that in a second. Chapter 2 has some problems on the Switch. I was originally going to report that the game was unfinishable, but that's not actually true. There's a level after the 3 main mini-games where you have a gap that you're supposed to be able to pull yourself over, and it's completely broken because no matter what, the hands don't pull you up, and you can't use momentum to jump over. You can, as I figured out, hop along the side to get through it. Chapter 2 is much bigger than Chapter 1, and the team that ported it did a poor job. There's frame rate hiccups, texture pop-ins, but nothing that I would say qualifies the game as broken. It feels shoddily and likely cheaply ported. One thing I did definitely notice is that the base game has been, shall we say, dumbed down for consoles. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing because Chapter 2 was kinda hard even with a mouse. I figured I'd be taking multiple attempts at the 3 mini-games on the Switch because the PC version gave me a hard time, but actually never failed once. I noticed the mini Huggy game is far more accommodating on controller than it was on PC, and the chase sequences with Mommy Longlegs were also much more relaxed. Everything is slower to make up for the player using a controller over a mouse and keyboard, and maybe it's just because I played these scenes multiple times on PC, but I only had an issue when there were technical problems. And there were a few of them, mostly centered around the hands not working as intended, which is kind of important when your only game mechanics are based around those hands. Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 is without a doubt the biggest of them all, and it shows in the game's loading screens. Not terrible, but also much longer than Chapter 1 and 2. I'm talking 30 to 40 seconds on average. The game does look leaps and bounds better than its predecessors though, and it does run smoothly on the Switch too. Much smoother than Chapter 2, oddly enough. They did bring back Euro aiming for Chapter 3 though, and outside of making the controls easier, it definitely makes the game feel more chaotic running around. My only problem is the lack of controllable flashlight, and the gas mask sequences are still terrible to look at. Should you buy Poppy Playtime on the Switch? Sure, if that's where you want to play it. The physical version does have the Switch cart tax. All 3 chapters on the eShop will run you roughly $30, while a physical copy will push you into the $40 range. Chapter 4 will run you another $20. I imagine another physical collection is coming at some point in the future, likely containing chapters 4 through 6 whenever those release. Like and subscribe for more of these videos. Probably should have brought the website up. I need my script so I can read it.